Hello, my name is Greg Hyatt, and I am the wildlife biologist for the Rawlins portion of the Lander region. In this video, I will review the proposed 2023 hunting seasons for Antelope Areas 52, 55, 56, 60 through 64, and 108, as well as deer areas 84, 87, and 98, elk areas 22, 108, 111, 118, and 130, and finally, bighorn sheep areas 17 and 26. One recurring theme you will hear throughout this presentation, at least for antelope and deer, is that herds in this part of the state suffered heavy winter losses several years ago, and each herd was in different stages of recovery in 2002, depending on fawn production and harvest rates. We are currently experiencing another severe winter in this part of the state, and our proposed hunting seasons have been adjusted to accommodate the expected losses from these herds. We will start with pronghorn antelope. The Iron Springs pronghorn antelope herd consists of hunt areas 52, 56, and 108. Making up the west side of the Platte Valley from Interstate 80 south to encampment. Like most herds in this part of the state, this herd was hit with severe weather in the 2019-20 winter, particularly in the northern end in areas 56 and 108, followed by extremely poor fawn production in 2020. License quotas in these areas were greatly reduced in 2020 and 21 to compensate for these losses. Fawn production improved slightly in 2022 to 60 per 100, but the herd was still almost 50% below objective. The buck-doe ratio improved to 59 per 100, top of the range for recreationally managed herds. Major cuts in license quotas are proposed this year in response to losses this past winter. While the herd is well below objective size, some Type 6 and 7 doe fawn licenses are retained in Area 52 to address landowner concerns on irrigated private lands. Average horn length of bucks harvested and checked in the Iron Springs herd increased to 12.2 inches in 2022. Most of the increase was in Area 108, which averaged 12.4 inches. Average horn length from Area 52 was shorter at 11.7 inches. Only 15% of the bucks checked during the 2022 hunt were 14 inches or more, and none of these came from Area 52. Overall, horn lengths from the Iron Springs herd in 2022 were similar to what was harvested across the rest of the state, but with a higher proportion of 12-inch bucks. Despite the improved fawn production, this herd was still almost 50% below the objective of 12,000 antelope in 2022 before this harsh winter. Because of above normal losses expected in the 2022-23 winter, proposed license quotas in Area 52 are all reduced by 50. Quotas for Type 1 licenses in Areas 56 and 108 are cut in half to 25 each. Some doe fawn harvest is retained in Area 52 to address landowner concerns in private lands, but the Type 7 doe fawn licenses in Area 108 are discontinued. Overall, license quotas are reduced from 600 in 2022 to 350 in 2023. The red desert antelope herd consists of areas 60, 61, and 64, north of Interstate 80 and west of Rawlins. This herd suffered heavy losses in the 2018-19 winter due to exceptionally deep snow and long periods of severe cold. The following 2019-20 winter was also harsh, at least in the eastern portion of the herd. In response to these losses, harvests were reduced and doe fawn harvest was eliminated. Fawn production improved in 2022 to 70 fawns per 100 does, but the herd was still almost 30% below the objective of 15,000 antelope. This herd is in special management, intended to maintain a larger supply of adult bucks. The buck-doe ratio for this herd improved to 70 per 100 in 2022, reaching the range for special management for the second consecutive year. For the first time in many years, buck-doe ratios in all three hunt areas met the special management criterion. The 2022-23 winter was again severe. 14 of 33 rated collared does in this herd died during January and February, a 42% mortality rate. Losses of bucks are expected to have been similar, and typically fawn losses are much higher. Based on the deaths of collared animals, roughly half the herd is expected to have died this winter. Major cuts and license quotas are proposed in response to these losses. Prior to the losses this winter, this herd was recovering well from the previous hard winters. Average horn length of bucks checked in the field rose again in 2022 to 13.6 inches, with most of the improvement in Area 61. Average horn length was lowest in Area 64, but this area also produced the longest horn measured in the herd in 2022 at 16.5 inches. Of the 31 longest bucks checked statewide in the 2022 hunting season, 9 came from the Red Desert herd. This herd is in special management intended to increase the proportion of older, mature bucks in the harvest. This management was successful in 2022, with hunters in this herd having much better success harvesting tall bucks than in the state at large. In 2022, 43% of the bucks harvested in the Red Desert were 14 inches long or more. With this herd suffering heavy losses again this winter, license quotas are significantly reduced in all three hunt areas to roughly half the 2022 levels. Overall, 500 licenses were allowed in 2022, but only 250 are recommended for this year. Opening dates are shifted to remain on the traditional Saturday openers. The South Ferris Antelope herd consists of Area 62, north and east of Rawlins and west of Seminoe Reservoir. This area suffered heavy losses during the 2018-19 and 2019-20 winters, reducing it well below the objective of 6,500 antelope. Fawn production was extremely poor from 2019 through 2021, ranging from only 20 to 27 fawns per 100 does. At these rates, the herd continued to decline. Fawn production improved in 2022 to 57 per 100, providing the first real increase in antelope numbers. Despite this improvement, the herd was still more than 75% below objective in 2022. This area has a good buck-doe ratio of 57 per 100 at the top of the recreational range, but many of the bucks in the population are unavailable to most hunters because of the checkerboard land ownership. In publicly accessible portions of the herd, the buck-doe ratio was only 39 per 100. The 2022-23 winter was again severe, with deep-crusted snow and cold temperatures. Losses from this herd are expected to be similar to those for the neighboring Red Desert herd, with roughly half the herd expected to have died this winter. 2022 showed signs of recovery in this herd. Average horn length of harvested bucks improved again to 13.2 inches, and 15% of the bucks checked were at least 14 inches long. Horn lengths did show a shortage of smaller bucks, a consequence of several years of poor recruitment from extremely low fawn crops. Because this herd was already so far below objective, license quotas in 2022 were already conservative. With high losses again this winter, the proposed season is a minimal hunt, with only 25 Type 1 licenses valid in the entire area, the lowest quota in more than 45 years. The opening date is shifted to stay on the traditional Saturday. With antelope numbers so low, the Type 2 licenses valid in the eastern third of this area are discontinued for this year. The North Ferris Antelope herd consists of Area 63, lying east of Muddy Gap, west of Pathfinder Reservoir, and north of the Ferris and Seminoe Mountains. Unlike desert herds closer to Rawlins, fawn crops rebounded quickly in this area following the 2019-20 winter. In 2022, the fawn-doe ratio was 68 per 100. Because of near-normal fawn crops, this herd was only about 25% below objective of 5,000 antelope in 2022. Buck harvests remained high in this area after the tough winter because of past surpluses of bucks in the population, but the buck-doe ratio in 2022 was down to 52 per 100, the lowest in 20 years. But this was still within the range for recreational management. The 2022-23 winter was again severe. Losses from this area are expected to be similar to those of the neighboring Red Desert herd, with up to half the herd expected to have died this winter. As a result, license quotas are reduced by almost a half. Average buck quality declined slightly in 2022, with horn length of bucks checked in the field averaging 12.3 inches. The longest buck checked was just under 15 inches, but still less than what this herd has produced in the recent past. Overall, hunters were able to harvest bucks that were comparable to the rest of the state, but only 11% of the bucks were 14 inches long or more. Cuts and license quotas proposed for this herd are not as drastic as in some areas to the south. This herd was closer to objective size before the past winter and typically returns to normal fawn production following hard winters, speeding up recovery. Opening dates are shifted to stay on the traditional Saturday. Antelope Area 55 is the northern portion of the Baggs herd, along with Area 53 in the Green River region. It consists entirely of checkerboarded land south of Interstate 80 and west of Rawlins. Like most areas around Rawlins, antelope numbers in this area declined because of losses in the 2018-19 and 2019-20 winters. As a result, doe harvest was eliminated in 2020 and buck harvests reduced. Fawn production in Area 55 improved in 2021 to 71 fawns per 100 does and remained at that level in 2022. As a result of this improved fawn production, this herd was nearing recovery and was a little more than 20% below objective in 2022. The buck-doe ratio in Area 55 dropped to 54 per 100 in 2022, within the range for a recreational herd, but the ratio of adult bucks was the lowest in 11 years. As with other herds in this part of the state, losses during this past winter are expected to be well above average. The proposed license quota is cut roughly in half from 2022 and would be the lowest since 2012. Average horn length of bucks harvested in Area 55 improved to 13.2 inches in 2022, longer than many neighboring areas, and the longest horn measured in the field increased to 15.2 inches. The proportion of bucks that were at least 14 inches long increased to 24%. Generally, hunters within Area 55 harvested longer bucks in 2022 than average hunters across the state. Because of the extreme losses seen this winter, the license quota for Area 55 is reduced by more than half to 75 licenses. The Ferris mule deer herd consists of Area 87 north and east of Rawlins and includes the Ferris, Seminoe, and Haystack Mountains. This herd was nearing objective size in 2018, but suffered heavy losses during the 2018-19 and 2019-20 winters, and is still roughly 70% below objective. After a record low in 2020, fawn production improved to 71 per 100 in 2021 and again to 80 per 100 in 2022, the highest in 5 years. This herd is in special management, intended to maintain a higher than average number of mature bucks in the population and harvest. The buck-doe ratio in 2022 increased to 56 per 100, near the top of the acceptable range, but many of the bucks in this herd are unavailable to most hunters because of the checkerboard land ownership. Only 5% of the adult bucks in the 2022 classification sample were Class 3, with antler spread of 26 inches or more. The 2022 to 23 winter was again harsh, and losses are expected to be above normal. Radio tracked deer winning across the highway south of Bear Oil had extremely high winter mortality, losing 5 out of 6 marked deer. Losses to radio marked deer in the neighboring area 97 were also higher than expected, but nowhere near as severe. Winter losses in this herd are expected to vary widely across the area. Average antler spread for deer checked from this area remained the same as in 2021 at 23 inches, but the proportion of the Class 3 bucks dropped from more than 30% in 2021 to only 8% in 2022. The widest buck checked in 2022 was only 26 inches, but this buck was still in the top 7% for the state. This herd is in special management, designed to increase the proportion of older mature bucks in the harvest. This was successful in 2022, with hunters in this herd having better success harvesting wide bucks than in the state at large. Winter losses from this herd are expected to be well above normal, at least in the southern portion of Area 87. The proposed license quota is reduced by 1/3 to accommodate those losses. The Chain Lakes mule deer herd consists of Area 98 in the Red Desert northwest of Rawlins. Deer in this herd unit are found in small groups scattered throughout a huge area, preventing the collection of useful data to make population estimates. Instead, this herd is managed with the goal of maintaining at least 60% landowner and hunter satisfaction. Following losses during the 2018-19 and 2019-20 winters, neither hunters nor landowners were satisfied with the number of deer they saw in this area. Deer numbers and hunter success had improved by 2022, however, and landowner satisfaction was 100% of those responding, and hunter satisfaction reached 63%. Unfortunately, at least half the antelope within this area are estimated to have died during the past harsh winter, and deer losses are expected to be comparable. 5 of 6 radio track deer from Green Mountain that tried to winter in Area 98 died in January and February. Hunter success jumped to 43% in 2022, which was surprising given the primitive weapons restrictions and the antler point restriction. The number of hunters dropped to a 25-year low, however, which may help explain the higher success and improved hunter satisfaction. Like antelope in the same area, deer numbers are expected to be lower after this past hard winter than they were following the previous 2 hard winters, simply because there were fewer animals at the start. The proposed hunting season remains conservative, retaining the popular muzzleloading rifle and archery weapons restriction, but with the antler point restriction being changed from 3-point to 4-point. This should reduce harvest even further and will also tie in with neighboring general license areas. We are also proposing to reduce the non-resident quota for the 3 areas in Region Q, areas 96, 97, and 98, from 125 down to 100. Deer Area 84 is part of the Baggs mule deer herd, along with areas 82 and 100 in the Green River region. Only a small portion of the herd resides in the desert scrub habitats found in Area 84. and Area 84 lies almost entirely in the checkerboard, making access difficult or impossible for most hunters. The northern portion of this herd unit suffered severe winter conditions in 2019 to 20, and harvest from Area 84 was reduced in response. The Baggs mule deer herd is in special management, intended to maintain a higher than average proportion of mature bucks in the population and harvest. No classification data are collected from Area 84 because most of the deer in this area migrate south into Area 82 before classification surveys are flown. In 2022, however, the buck-doe ratio for the herd as a whole remained low at only 27 per 100, below the desired range for special management. This entire herd unit was hit with deep crusted snow and severe cold this past winter, including on winter ranges used by the deer in Colorado. Losses are expected to be well above average, and proposed hunting seasons are conservative. As in 2021, none of the bucks checked from Area 84 in 2022 were Class 3, greater than 26 inches wide. The widest buck checked was only 24.5 inches, and the average spread for adult bucks from this area was 21 inches. While the number of trophy-sized bucks in this area is less than desired, hunters in Area 84 still had better success at harvesting wide bucks than in the state as a whole in 2022. Given the low numbers of deer, the lack of Class 3 bucks in the harvest, and expected winter losses across the herd unit, the proposed quota for Area 84 in 2003 is reduced by half. The Ferris Elk herd consists of areas 22 and 111 between Rawlins and Casper. It covers the Ferris and Seminoe Mountains and the Haystack Mountains north of Sinclair. Severe winters that damage antelope and deer populations rarely affect elk survival in these open habitats where any windswept ridge can provide winter forage. But because of the heavy, deep snow cover this year, conditions for this winter's trend count were ideal. This winter's count of 759 elk was 14% higher than last year's and shows the herd is still at least twice objective size. The proportion of the elk in this herd found in the checkerboard, where there is little to no access for hunters, has been steadily increasing, and this year 50% of the elk were found in this portion of the herd unit. Access to a large portion of the remaining elk is also limited by private lands. Half the cows in the herd were in the checkerboard, where little antlerless harvest is allowed to occur. License quotas and extended seasons have successfully controlled elk numbers on the publicly accessible portions of this herd unit, but elk numbers within the checkerboard continue to increase. All 759 elk counted in this herd were also classified, yielding a bull-cow ratio of 55 per 100, the lowest in 9 years. While higher than ratios in many other herds, a majority of the bulls in this population are not available to most hunters, inflating this ratio. Calf production was low at 35 calves per 100 cows. Increased quotas for bull licenses have successfully reduced hunter success to 67% in 2022. Early winter hunts, running in late November and early December, have allowed for harvest of elk that were on private land and unavailable during October, but have moved onto winter ranges on public lands. Based on harvest dates provided by hunters, roughly a quarter of the Type 1 harvest is taken during the late November-December season. In an effort to increase bull harvest from this herd, a late November to mid-December extended season was added for Type 1 licenses in these two areas, beginning in 2019. This late season is intended to give hunters an opportunity to hunt antlered elk after they have moved to their winter range, much of which is on public land. This winter range season has increased harvest of surplus bulls and is proposed again for this year. As in previous years, Hunters with these licenses will be able to hunt either Area 22 or 111. With the success of this winter range hunt, quotas for the Type 1 licenses were increased in both areas in 2021, but no further increase is proposed for this year. Efforts to gain access for hunters to parts of the checkerboard have not been successful, but the quotas for Type 4 licenses in Area 111 are increased again this year because the herd is still well above objective. Harvest from this season should further reduce elk numbers in accessible portions of the herd. Without access for antlerless hunters, the segment of the herd in the checkerboard will continue to grow. The Shamrock Elk herd consists of Area 118 and the eastern edge of the Red Desert northwest of Rawlins. Because these elk are dispersed in small groups scattered over hundreds of square miles, collection of normal herd data is impossible or cost prohibitive. Instead, management of this herd is based upon spring trend counts with an objective of averaging 75 elk. Much of the habitat occupied by these elk lies in the checkerboard in the southern portion of the area where elk compete with livestock for forage and water. A trend count flown in June of 2017 found only 42 elk below the objective. Because of COVID, the next survey was not flown until spring of 2021, which found only 32 elk. While we know we cannot see all the elk in this herd from the air, that survey suggests elk numbers have stabilized or even slightly declined since 2017. Complaints over high elk numbers on private lands have also lessened. License quotas remained steady from 2018 through 2021, with a total of 100 licenses available each year, but were increased to 130 in 2022. Success for Type 1 hunters dropped to 76% with the increase, but success for cow hunters remained above 50%. No changes are proposed in Area 118 for 2023. The license quotas increased in 2022 will be retained, as well as the October 1st opening date for the Type 6 cow licenses. Elk Areas 108 and 130 are part of the Sierra Madre elk herd, along with Areas 13, 15, and 21 in the Green River and Laramie regions. A trend count this past winter suggests this herd is still over objective size. A large proportion of the count was in these two northern hunt areas because of deep crusted snow cover, but only a small portion of the herd resides in the desert scrub, rim rock habitats found in these two areas during the summer and fall. Areas 108 and 130 lie almost entirely in the checkerboard, making access difficult or impossible for most hunters. With increased quotas in 2022, success for Type 1 hunters in Area 108 declined to 76%, but this was still within the normal range for this area. Success for Type 4 hunters was also high at 72%. Hunters with the late Type 6 licenses enjoyed 65% success despite an increased quota. High hunter success and increased quotas yielded a harvest of 237 elk in 2022, the largest ever taken from Area 108. Severe winters that damage antelope and deer populations rarely affect elk survival in these open habitats where any windswept ridge can provide cover and food. While losses from this elk herd may have been above average this winter, they are not expected to significantly affect herd size. Increased harvests in recent years appear to have successfully reduced herd size, and the same seasons and license quotas are proposed for Areas 108 and 130 in 2023. As in previous years, antlerless seasons are extended in Area 108 to increase harvest and allow harvest of elk that migrate in from areas to the south. The Type 6 hunters would again be restricted to the western portion of the area near Red Rim during the January portion of the extended season. The Ferris-Seminoe Bighorn sheep herd consists of areas 17 and 26 between Rawlins and Casper. Area 17 covers the Ferris and Seminoe Mountains, and Area 26 contains the Bennett Mountains to the east of Seminoe Reservoir. Past hunting seasons allowed hunters to hunt either or both areas, but beginning in 2022, quotas were separated between the two hunt areas. The most recent effort to return bighorn sheep to this part of their native range was initiated in 2009. Following a handful of releases, bighorn sheep reintroduced into these mountain ranges have done well. The management objective for this herd is to have a 3-year average of 300 sheep in winter trend counts, and that goal was reached this year. A total of 409 bighorn sheep were counted, yielding a 3-year average of 316. Good lamb production and survival is the main reason this herd is thriving, and production was a healthy 54 lambs per 100 ewes in 2022. Bighorn sheep used for these recent transplants dropped their lambs earlier in the spring than those in previous transplant attempts, and appear to be well synchronized for low elevation, dry habitats found in these mountains. Average age of rams harvested from this herd was 6.7 years in 2022, the same as in 2021. This winter's count found 130 rams, more than enough to justify a slight increase in harvest. Since most of the herd and most of the rams are in Area 17, the 2 additional licenses were both added to Area 17. Both licenses in Area 26 would be for resident hunters, whereas one of the 10 licenses issued for Area 17 would go to a non-resident. With this herd reaching objective size and lamb production and survival remaining high, harvest of ewes has become necessary. First, the healthy lamb production and survival seen in this herd is largely due to major habitat treatments in the past decade. To maintain the high productivity of this herd, bighorn sheep numbers need to be managed to maintain the range health of those habitats. And secondly, the greatest threat to this herd is the possibility of disease transfer from domestic animals outside the herd unit. To address this threat, it is necessary to keep bighorn sheep numbers at a healthy density to minimize the likelihood of bighorn sheep trying to disperse or wander to new ranges which may harbor dangerous pathogens. To begin stabilizing herd size, a harvest of 20 ewes is proposed for this fall. Based on where the sheep are, 3 of these ewe lamb licenses would be issued in Area 26 and the remainder in Area 17. To ensure some of the ewe harvest comes off the sheep ranges in the Ferris Mountains, 5 of these licenses would be limited to the Sand Creek drainage as Type 7 licenses. As with the ram licenses, the 20 ewe lamb licenses would have a 90-10 split between resident and non-resident hunters. If you have questions about any of these season proposals, please call any of the Game and Fish people listed here. If we can't answer your question, we should be able to direct you to someone who can. Or you can attend any of the following public meetings to hear more about these season proposals within the Lander region. And finally, we really want to hear your comments or suggestions on these proposed hunting seasons, either online or mailed to the address shown here. All comments we received will be passed on to each Game and Fish Commissioner before they act on these proposals at their meeting in late April. To be included, all comments must be received by 5 p.m. on March 29th.